One is that both sides overestimated their ability to get over to get across the finish line. I think that that India overestimated the ability for the two sides to get to a deal, even with India insisting on not making some of the concessions that the U.S. side was demanding, particularly in terms of easing protections in sensitive sectors like agriculture and dairy. That's one issue. I also think that the U.S. side overestimated the ability to get to a deal, um, given Indian um, given India's position. I don't think that the US side thought that India would hold its ground. I think that the US side expected that eventually India would fold and would make all the concessions that the US side wanted it to. And that's clearly would not be a good read on India's negotiating style and its interest, its economic interest, its national interest. But I think that's the issue right there. So it's true that talks were going very well for many months, and India got off to a head start in its talks with the U.S. And that, several months before the reciprocal tariffs were first announced, you had the U.S. and India pledged to begin talks, which they did. So things were going very well, but I think it really came down to that last set of concessions that India was not willing to make. That's where the problems came up. I would also argue the Russia factor looms large here. I believe that President Trump has become increasingly unhappy with Moscow and particularly Vladimir Putin for not heeding Trump's calls for Russia to stop fighting and agreeing to a ceasefire. And I think that President Trump wants to pressure Russia to agree to a ceasefire by um, try to pressure Russia's closest trade partners, including India, to back away from their trade relationships with Russia. And I think this is another reason why President Trump has been increasingly inclined to be pushing these tariffs on India. He really hopes that that'll prompt India to stop importing energy from Russia, and that would hurt Russia, and that would make Russia agree to a ceasefire. A lot of assumptions here that I think are very questionable.